Hey guys, I'm Megan Barker. Welcome to Jammin' and Jammies. We are sitting down with some of our favorite music creators and learning how they got where they are, and hopefully they'll share some valuable insight into the music industry. You can watch the interviews online. You can also tune into the podcast. And we go live every Sunday night. So make sure you check out jamminandjammies.com for all the details. Today, we are lucky enough to have Jammie veteran at this point, Mr. Clay Mills, who is a 10-time ASCAP award-winning songwriter and producer. He's also Grammy nominated. You probably recognize his hits Don't Think I Don't Think About It by Darius Rucker, Diamond Rio's Beautiful Mess, and more. He's had over 75 songs recorded by artists like Lady Antebellum, Trisha Yearwood, Reba, and more. Obviously, we have a lot of ground to cover, so let's dive in. Clay, how you doing? Thanks for being here.
I'm great. Thanks for having me. Been
It,
looking forward to seeing you. Haven't seen you since pre-COVID.
I know it's the craziest thing. Thank God that we have this technology and we can actually see each other during this crazy time.
I
Um,
know.
Thank you for being here. Do you want to just start at the basics, like where you're from and how you got into music early on?
Oh, wow. Yes, a very long time ago. I was grew up in the Mississippi Delta. My grandfather had a farm, and I think I learned to sing working out in those fields with the old guys that would be out in the field singing and chopping cotton, and
Wow.
I'd be singing along, and so that kind of put a bug in me. And just had a high school band. Moved to New York when I was 19, and got into believe it's kind of weird. I was trying to find my way in music, and I started writing and singing and programming like national television jingles.
Wow.
And I did that for about 7 years, and I was like, you know what? I really always wanted to be a songwriter and sing real songs, not jingles. Not that that's not a skill.
Yeah,
that was a skill, and it was good training for me.
I'm
But
sure.
I moved to Nashville, got a publishing deal, and that's just kind of how it all happened.
Wow. Okay. Well, first of all, I'm dying to know what was it like moving to New York City at 19? A little scary?
Yeah. From at that point, I had lived in Mississippi and Alabama, and so moving there at 19 was definitely culture shock.
Yeah, I bet.
But but it's in some ways there's so much opportunity in a big city like that that it
Yeah.
was, you don't slow down. You're just like full steam ahead, and there was all this music stuff to get involved in. So it was really great. I mean, I don't think I would want to live there now, but in my 20s, it was like I loved it then.
Yeah, I bet it was pretty exhilarating when you're young and excited like that. That's amazing. All right, so then you moved to Nashville. Another culture shock, I bet, after being 7 years in New York City. How did you get
Yeah.
your first publishing deal? How long did it take?
Well, oddly enough, when I was in New York, I started writing songs with a TV actor who had been going to Nashville and was trying to get a record deal. And so he had been going for like 4 years to Nashville, and just a great guy. We wrote some songs together, and he came to Nashville, played our songs that we wrote together, and Mark Bright, who produces Carrie Underwood, at that time he was just up and coming at EMI Publishing, and he heard the songs that I wrote with my buddy Ken, and he's like, "Who'd you write these songs with, Ken? They're so much better than the ones that you've been writing when you come to town and write with all the Nashville writers." I don't know if he said better, but he thought they were different.
Yeah.
It's like I didn't have that same thing that everyone else in Nashville was doing. So he called me up. He flew to New York, saw me do a showcase, wanted to sign me to an artist deal, sign me to kind of a publishing artist deal. And I never really felt comfortable doing the artist thing. Once I figured out in Nashville I could write songs and live in a recording studio, stay at home, raise my son. That was more appealing to me than going out on the road. So um, that's how I got started. Mark Bright gave me a chance to write for EMI Music. 3 years later, I lost that publishing deal, had no cuts, and bounced around a little while. I mean, it literally took me about 7 years of writing every day in Nashville to get the first, hit song on the radio. And I think I went through three publishing deals before that even happened. So It's
Wow.
not, it's a lot of ups and downs.
Yeah. So I guess you would say it's a 7-year town.
Yes, for me, it was definitely a 7-year town.
Wow. Okay. And I don't know if you're planning on sharing the story, but I've heard you share this story before. Was your family supportive?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't so much my family, but all my friends.
Okay.
And so, yeah, when I told my friends I was moving to Nashville, they all threw this big party for me at a restaurant, and I show up, and it turned out it was not really a party, it was more of an intervention.
Oh
And they were
no.
like, "Why are you moving to New York? I mean, to Nashville? Nobody knows you there. You're going to give up a good job, and what are you doing?" I mean, they literally thought I was crazy.
Wow.
For like those 7 years, I would get calls all the time saying, "Why don't you move back? What are you doing?" Um, but when I got my first number one song, I remember I had back then we had these answering machines with the little tape on them,
With the tape.
pre
Yeah.
cell phones. And one day I come home, I just had my first number one, and I had like 37 messages on that machine, and they all said, "Man, we knew you could do it." It's like,
Of
oh
course.
yeah, yeah.
That's amazing. Okay. 7 years, that's a long time. How do you keep the faith that long? Did you just know that one day it was gonna happen?
I don't know. I really didn't think like that. I just thought I put my head down, my nose to the grindstone, and I just kept grinding out songs. Like it I didn't sit back and go at any point, why are you doing this? I just kept doing it. It was like I was driven to do it. Um, and so that allowed me that kind of focus allowed me to move to New York and then move to Nashville. I mean, when I first moved to New York, I had like $300 in my pocket.
Wow.
So I slept on a friend's sofa for a little bit until I was found a job in a music store and just kind of started making things happen. But yeah, I
Wow.
mean, you just you just put your head down and do the work, and you hope everything, I know I'm lucky because I've been able to do this for a long time, but um, you know, you just you, I have a friend, Sonny Lemire, that I wrote Beautiful Mess with, and we used to talk about, we'd say, burn your bridges behind you. Because if you can go back to where you came from, there's no motivation to make it happen. But when you've got no bridge behind you, the only option is to succeed. And so that's what we did.
I've never heard that. Everyone tells you not to burn bridges, but I love that. That's super inspiring.
Oh yeah, burn the bridges behind you. Otherwise, you're just going to retreat back over them. And if you always know in the back of your head, well, I can always go back and do
Yeah.
that. And you know, I don't think anyone succeeded with that kind of attitude, really.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You got to stay out of your comfort zone.
Yes.
You've been in Nashville a really long time now. So what kind of changes have you seen in the industry in the time that you've been here? Do you think it's super different?
Yes, I think it is. When I first moved to New York, it was the beginning of computers and tracks replacing musicians. And I did that. Like I programmed tracks. That's how I did all my jingles, how I wrote my songs, how I did my demos.
Wow.
And then when I came to Nashville, I went into a music store and I was like, "Where's your computer department?" And they just looked at me like I was from another planet. But now all that's changed.
Yeah.
There's so many records now made with computers and loops, and so it's kind of like Nashville is a little behind where we were at that time in New York. So I think there's still a live music scene with guys playing in the studio, but a lot more records are made, on a computer and program these days.
So you were one of the original track guys in Nashville or in
Yes,
New York, I guess.
I was on the bleeding edge. I had a
You're
little Atari computer that was actually at that time was right about the time the very first Macintosh computer came out.
That is crazy. Oh my gosh. That's insane. Okay, a lot of our followers, I'm sure, as you know, are aspiring songwriters. Can you give any insight into what your first publishing deal should look like? I mean, I know that all deals are different. Is there anything you can kind of speak to about that?
Yeah, I mean, typically your first deal is not going to be a great deal for the writer, but in some ways it is. You're typically going to give up all your publishing,
Mhm.
and hopefully in return you get a small draw that you can live off of until you start making income from your songs. So, you give up all your publishing, you're getting a small draw, living frugally, and you're writing songs every day. And I mean, the draw helps you be able to write songs every day and not have to worry about
Yeah.
paying for the electricity bill. So that's good. But the publisher, a good publisher, is going to hook you up with writers. I i just suggest that anyone wanting to start out in the music business learn a little bit of how the business goes,
Yeah.
because when you do have your first success, you need to be able to parlay and leverage that into the kind of deals that are going to allow you to really make a living as a songwriter, because your first deal would be very hard to make a living
Yeah.
as a songwriter with. And I know Marty and Dotson and I started Songtown, so that's some of what we teach our writers. And we get emails every day saying, "Hey, so and so offered me this deal. Is it a good one?" So we try to give back by helping writers understand the business and understand how to write better. I always think a great song opens any door,
Yeah.
and so I always focus. Anytime my career is at a down point, I figure out how I can write better songs.
Yeah.
And that changes everything. It's not about who you know. Um, I started out in the business, didn't know anyone, I didn't have any money, and it's really a matter of how good your songs are.
Yeah. Well, that's a perfect segue because I was just going to say that I know you and Marty are both passionate about helping up and comer songwriters. I mean, you guys have been intricate in my career the last few years. Can you just tell us how Songtown came to be and what it's all about?
Oh, yeah, it's crazy. We started on Facebook writing a blog every day. Um, just tell because we had seen so many people online with these scam sites saying, we'll get your song to Blake Shelton, or
Right.
and they really weren't legit. So we started saying, well, let's just write some blogs and tell people how the business works, what we do every day in our songwriting sessions, when we're writing, how we approach writing. And we did that for 2 years, wrote 700 blogs. And, every day we posted a new blog article. And it was, just got to the point where this followers on Facebook kept saying, "Hey, we love this. Can you teach a class?" So we started teaching some classes in master classes on writing, and we still do that. Every January we do a huge master class for writers. But the next logical step was, why don't we put up a website? We had like 500 writers sign up the first week we went public. I mean,
Crazy.
now it's literally thousands of members around the world, but at that time, um, it was pretty good. We were like, wow, 500 people want to learn about songwriting.
Yeah.
And, I love teaching songwriting. I love songwriters. And we're just trying to keep that art alive, because you come from a line of songwriters, and, you just want to keep that whole art and craft, keep it alive. So, because it could easily get lost in
Yeah.
today's craziness.
Yeah, especially how quickly things change in Nashville, like you were saying.
Yeah.
It's its own special little world. What's it like to see people getting deals? People that have been part of Songtown now, they've got publishing deals. Some of them are probably working on record deals. It's got to be a cool feeling.
Oh yeah, I mean, and people like Blake Griffith signed a deal, got a Tim McGraw cut. So we've
Amazing.
had several members get major artist cuts. Um, you know, dozens get publishing deals. Couple sign record deals. So it's great. I mean, you get to feel like you are kind of giving back, because I had people help me when I started.
Yeah.
who believed in me and wrote songs with me, even when I didn't know really how to write songs that well. They saw something in me, so that's what I like to do. I like to find talent and try to help them get better.
Yeah, I think that's one important thing I've realized is no one does anything alone. You always have someone believe in you or somebody helped you. So it's a team effort, I think, in the music biz. Would
Yes.
you agree? Yeah.
And I think at some point in your career, you go from looking for other people to help you, and then you go, okay, I got to start trying to help other people.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of a natural progression when you've been doing it as long as I have. So,
Well, speaking of natural progression, what inspired you and Marty to start your own publishing company and what has that been like?
oh, that's been great. I mean, just this week, one of our writers has a song with the TikTok artist. It's got 1.5 million, plays on TikTok, and we're like, it's like a whole new world. When I started, TikTok didn't even exist, and so um, yeah, I mean, it's crazy. The reason we started the publishing company is we started seeing our members get deals around town, and but then we also saw other members we thought that were really good that weren't getting deals, and so we thought, well, let's this would be a good way we could help them. So we've signed right now. We have two writers, Josh Bird and Kelly McKay, and we help them. We set them up on writing appointments, get their songs heard. Um, so it's great. It's you know,
Is
it's different. I always was on the other side of it. I was a writer, and now I know what that publisher was going through when I was writing for them.
I can't imagine what that feels like. I mean, what do you look for in a songwriter that you want to sign then? Now you're on the other side of it.
Yeah, I mean, it still comes down to taste. If I think somebody is writing great songs, um, that's the bottom line for me is, are the songs really good? I mean, somebody like Kelly, every time I've heard a song of hers, it always has an interesting title and hook. There's always something interesting about it. It's not just somebody going, "Oh, I'm writing a song title today." Well, no, she really approaches it from a different angle. And Josh is great. He's writing with so many good artists, and he's a great lyricist. So I don't know. It's just it has to be something that I go, "Wow, this is really good."
It's kind of a gut thing too. I think you just know when you know. Yeah.
You,
Yeah. Can you say what is maybe one of the best piece of advices that you've ever gotten? Advices? Advice.
Vices.
Advices.
Um, Gosh, I'm trying to think.
I'm sure
Um,
there's a lot,
uh,
but
well, years ago when I started writing jingles, there was a guy that um, he had a lot of jingle accounts, and he would come in and we would write the music and produce it together. And he used to tell me, I don't know if I can say this on here, but you can't be afraid to be an asshole. And what he meant was, and I can't say it in his New York Brooklyn accent, but he would what he meant was you can't be afraid of looking stupid. Like, you've just got to keep putting your ideas out there and
yeah.
failing, and if you fail enough times, and that was hard for me. I don't like to do something unless I know it's good. And
Yeah.
so I fight that battle. So for me, that was important advice, to know that don't be afraid of looking silly.
Yeah, I love that. I'm actually guilty of that on a personal note. I don't like people thinking that I don't know something. I want to look like I know everything, not in a cocky way, but I just don't want people to think I'm dumb. So that's something that I've battled with. So I think that's huge for a songwriter. Don't be afraid. You have to be vulnerable in the writer's room. And I can't tell you how many times I've been writing a song with someone and they're like, "Well, this might be stupid, but," and I'm like, "That's not stupid. That's great." Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, a lot of times when I just throw out a line without thinking and I'm kind of half joking, the other people in the room will go, "Wow, that's great." It's just so if I had weight and go, "No, that's stupid. I'm not going to say that." You
Yeah.
can't do that. You got to let it out. You got to be natural and just let out your freak.
That's right. Let your freak flag fly. I love it. Do you remember the first time you heard your song on the radio?
Yes. And it was driving home the day my son was born, and I heard my song on the radio at the same time. So
You're kidding.
it was pretty cool. Yeah.
What a day.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those you literally want to pull over to the side of the road for a minute and just, um, I won't tell you the rest of that story. I ended up having a traffic accident on the way home, but
Oh,
I think
Lord.
that was the universe going, don't get a big head about this songwriting thing. You gotta.
Yeah, the universe always
It
finds a
was
way to
just a
keep you
little.
humble.
It was just a little, fender bender. It wasn't anything major.
That's crazy. Um, do you want to play a song for us?
I do.
I would love it.
Okay.
I think you're gonna play my favorite, but I don't know.
I wrote this song with Darius Rucker. The first time I ever met him, my publisher hooked me up to write with him. So he drove me up to Kentucky in his convertible. I don't know why I remember that, but I climbed on the tour bus in Kentucky to write with Darius, and we drove to Chicago. And so in between Kentucky and Chicago, we wrote this song. It was the first song, and I climbed on the bus and I go, man, he's like, how are you? It's like, I don't even feel like writing today. And this is not the thing you tell a star the first time you sit down to write with him. And, he was like, what's wrong? And I'm like, well, I just broke up with my girlfriend the day before and I'm second guessing myself. And he's like, man, we all do that. And I was like, really? He goes, yeah, I still think about this girl in the second grade sometimes. And we just kind of laughed. And he's like, we all have those memories. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah, don't think I don't. And so I just started like playing and singing this chorus because
Wow.
that's how I love to write songs, is something that comes out of a conversation.
Yeah.
And then I just start singing the words and putting the song together. So this was the first one we wrote, and it was his first #1 song ever as an artist.
Wow.
Not my first #1, but he's since passed me. So go ahead. I left out in a cloud, tail lights and dust. Swore I wasn't coming back, said I had enough. I saw you in the rear view standing, fading from my light. But it was the turnaround. No, not this time. Don't think I don't think about it. Don't think I don't have regrets. Don't think it don't get to me. Between the work and the hurt and the whiskey, don't think I don't wonder about. Could've been, should've been, all worked out. I know what I feel, I know what I see. Don't think I don't think about it. We make choices, we gotta live with them. Heard you found a real good man and you married him. I wonder sometimes I cross your mind. Where would we be today if I never drove that car away? Don't think I don't think about it. Don't think I don't have regrets. Don't think it don't get to me. Between the work and the hurt and the whiskey, don't think I don't wonder about. Couldn't be, shouldn't been all worked out. I know what I feel, I know what I see. I feel, I know what I see. Don't think about it. Oh, I found the chord.
Yeah. It's so hard with the delay. And, in real life, we used to be able to like sing along with each other at shows, and I have to like sit here and be quiet and still. It's so hard. I love that song.
Couldn't we have done this on TikTok and then done a duet?
We'll do that next. We'll do that next. I'm still figuring out TikTok myself. It's there's always something new we have to figure out, it seems like.
I know.
Yeah. But I love that song. Okay, just a couple more questions. You know, joining Songtown, maybe joining things like NSAI. Do you have any other advice for people that maybe just moved to Nashville, or maybe they don't live in Nashville? Other ways that they can feel connected to the music industry?
Yeah, I mean, joining an organization like Songtown or NSAI is good, but I would recommend you join those things for different reasons. And the reason is, as a songwriter, every door that's ever been opened for me has come through co-writing. Whether it's my first deal I ever got when I told you I co-wrote with this artist and then he played a song for a publisher, um, and I just know publishers around, Nashville and LA, it's all word of mouth. So if you can build up your reputation as a co-writer and have people going, wow, you need to write with that person, um, that's what's going to open doors more for you rather than like going to some pitch event where you pitch a publisher a song. And
Yeah.
I mean, those have literally not, they've been doing those for 3 decades. I've never heard of a number one song ever getting picked
Right.
up by that. So the real way that songwriters make progress, and artists too, are co-writing with other people in the community.
Yeah.
And today, because of technology, I mean, I co-write with people all over the world. You don't have to be in Nashville. You
Yeah.
you can. The cool thing about a Songtown or whoever is that it's a community of writers, so you can meet other writers. And we have someone in you know Norway, someone in Canada that co-write with people here in Nashville that have had some success because their co-writer in Nashville's here taking songs around town.
Yes.
So I don't think you necessarily have to live in a music city like you used to have to live in a music city. It helps,
Sure.
but if you can co-write, then all things are possible.
Absolutely. And honestly, Songtown is where I met my first co-writers, really. I mean,
Oh,
Kelly McKay, I've written so much with Kelly and I'm so excited for her and so many people. I mean, I even made a friend named Rosie who lives in Ireland, and I got to go over to Ireland and she like took me to the airport, and I wouldn't have had those cool connections if it weren't for Songtown. So that must be really cool for you guys. And it's really cool for us to have an experience. Okay. And then follow up, more complicated question. What about for the people that have been in town for a few years? And I hate to say that I've seen a few people leave town during COVID, and it's understandable. It's a scary time. The music industry is a little quieter right now. What would you say to people that have maybe, had publisher meetings? They've had songs pitched and they're just thinking about quitting. I mean, do you have any words of advice for people they're almost there and they're tired?
I know, and that's where I was saying in the beginning, the grinding it out part
Yeah.
comes into play. Um, because if you have in the back of your mind you're gonna go back home, I mean, literally, you have to narrow down so the only option you have is to make it happen.
Yeah.
And so it's harder now because of COVID, but this is going to be over.
Yeah.
And, when you see that a publisher is having a writer's night at the listening room, go down there, introduce yourself. My buddy Forrest Whitehead, that's how he got his
Mm.
first deal. He kept showing up at the same publishing company. Every time they'd have a writer's night around town, he would show up, introduce himself, didn't even push his songs on them. And then eventually, they get to know him and they're like, hey, what do you do? And he's like, I write songs. And they're like, come by the office and play them for me.
Yeah.
So it's really hard. Don't try to push your music on people because publishers and producers, they're always getting songs pushed at them. So, and this is important. Don't pitch songs to publishers. Pitch yourself. They're not interested in songs. They're interested in writers. They're interested in great writers. So always pitch yourself. That's why I was saying, when you go to writer's night, don't, throw songs at them. Don't go, hey, here's a, USB with my songs on. Don't do that. Get to know them as people, and eventually you'll go further. But pitch songs to producers, but don't pitch songs to publishers. Pitch yourself.
It's a long game. You got to be in it for the long game. It takes time to develop these relationships. And shout out to Forrest, who started Music City Playbook. If you guys want to go check out, I did an interview with him. That's really cool stuff he's doing as well. And I'm so glad that there's all these cool tools around, like Songtown and Music City Playbook now. And there's all these cool things that I wish were around 10 years ago when I was first getting started. It's very valuable stuff. So I think we covered. Oh, go ahead.
When you're saying it's a long game, yeah, I had my first #1 song when I was 41. So it wasn't like I started out, I didn't have these tools. So it took me a good 22 years of doing music full time to be able to get a #1 song. So,
but you just knew that music was going to be your whole life. You knew you were going to make your living at it one way or another. And I think that's kind of how you have to be. You're either going to do it or you're not, like,
I was either going to go to law school or do music. And
law school?
Yes.
I don't know if I could see you as a lawyer. That's crazy.
I chose the right path.
I think you did, but in another universe, there is a Clay who is a lawyer.
Oh gosh, that would be scary.
That would be awesome. Okay, I think we covered just about everything. Is there anything else that we didn't cover that you wanted to touch on? I mean, you've given insight to young writers. We've learned a little bit about your journey. I think it's been pretty cool.
Yes, I really appreciate it. And if you're out there writing songs, just know that other people have walked your walk, and don't give up. Just keep working at it. And at the end of the day, even if you don't sign a publishing deal, you've spent your day doing something you love. And life is short. Spend it doing what you love.
Amen. I think that's a perfect note to end things on. Thank you so much for taking the time and talking with us and singing for us. And we'll have to do it again soon. We'll catch up again.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Peace.
Jamming and Jammie's magic in the air. Head to toe, so cozy. Oh, look out.
Pop, it's showtime. Showtime. Guess who's back again? Oh, they don't know. Oh, they don't know. I bet they know as soon as we walk in. Wearing fuzzy things, candy rings, ain't PJ looking so fly. Don't look too hard, you might hurt yourself. We look too damn good to deny.
At Frisky Frog.
Oh, snap. I'm a dangerous girl with some footies on my beaties. Keep up. So many awesome hits and riders, and we're gonna keep them coming. Keep up. Come on down to the frog, and we'll get you Jammie juice, and come on. Riders only.
Put your candy rings up to the moon.
What y'all trying to do?
What y'all trying to do? Jamming and Jammie.